In this episode, we'll analyze a chapter of this incredible book, The Imitation of Christ by Thomas A. Kempis. It's a great book. It's a Christian one. The author was a monk. But the lens from which we are going to analyze it is a more general one. Rather than a religious one, we're going to analyze it from a personal perspective, which is that of your own personal and spiritual growth. What is the message, the lesson that is in this book that you can take with you for your own personal growth? That is the question that we'll try to answer. And stay till the very end, because I'll tell you about the advice that the author gives us so that we too can find inner peace. That's what we'll do today. So let's go. That's a great advice. I mean, this comes from the Middle Ages, but the advice that he is giving us is still very accurate. Give yourself time to focus on inward, silent, quiet things, instead of just being lost in just the chaos of a life that we all live. Because of technology, because of the distractions that we have. Our phone is ringing all the time. We're looking at our screens all day long. Okay. Good. Here we are. Hello everyone. My name is Alex. And it's a pleasure to have you. Today, I'm gonna share a chapter with you of a book that I'm reading at the moment. It's called The Imitation of Christ. It's a Christian book, but I don't want that fact to be something that scares you away, basically. I know that sometimes religious material tends to scare people off who are not at peace with the idea of religion or the idea of God or whatever. So I recognize that the fact that this is a Christian book could potentially, and maybe will, inevitably scare some of you away. But I want to approach it with an open mind, really. So if the word Christ or the word God doesn't sit well with you and you have a strong sense of aversion, then I would say try to find a different word, basically. One that works for you. The one, we can call it the source, the universe, life. So, that's going to be our challenge, really, which is not to allow the terminology that is in this book to prevent us from grasping the message that it's trying to send, basically. And what I'm going to do with you today, I'm going to take a few minutes, I don't know how long, and I will share one chapter that I've really liked, in the hope that we can analyze it together and understand the importance that I think is here, right? So yeah, we'll do that. You don't have to be a Christian to see this video, really, or listen to this. In fact, this is a medieval writing. It comes to us from the Middle Ages. I'm sure there are many practicing Christians for whom the teaching that is in this book is as far as unknown as something like Tibetan Buddhism. But anyway, let's not get carried away by that. Quickly to the author. The author is called Thomas A. Kempis. I don't know if you can read it there. Probably not. Yes. That. Thomas A. Kempis. The Imitation of Christ. It's from the Middle Ages, and I think that's something very interesting about it, is that the terminology that he uses is Christian, as I told you. But if we look at it from the perspective of how the Middle Ages were, how life in the Middle Ages was, really, I think we can understand the fact that this is a book that uses Christian terminology just because that was the only terminology that the author could use at that time, really. Because during the Dark Ages, first of all, the only people who could read and write were monks. So most books written during that age are written by monks. This person, Thomas A. Kempis, was a monk, and he wrote using the Christian terminology basically because that was the only terminology that he could use. Because in those ages, if you were to say something philosophical or spiritual or anything, and the church would disagree with what you're saying, you would be in great trouble. And if you're lucky, you would be put in jail for the rest of your life. And if you are unlucky, burned to death or something. So somehow we can say that Thomas writing this book, it was an act of bravery, because in those ages, if you were to write something that's related to spirituality, you would be putting your life in danger, because you would not know beforehand how the church might react to it. So anyway, that's the story. Basically, long story for a brief point, which is, don't get carried away by the terminology. It's a chapter called Of Christ's Speaking Inwardly to the Beautiful Soul. And it says, "Blessed is the soul which heareth the Lord speaking within her, and receiveth from his mouth the word of consolation. Blessed are the ears that gladly receive the pulses of the divine whisper, and give no heed to the many whisperings of this world. Blessed indeed are those ears which listen not after the voice which is sounding without, but for the truth teaching inwardly." So let's pause here for trying to understand what he's saying. He's saying that blessed is the soul who can hear the Lord speaking within her. What does this mean? He's saying, blessed is the person who can listen to something divine, transcendental, within. Blessed are the ears that gladly receive the pulses of the divine whisper. Obviously, these are not external ears. He's not referring to your physical ears, but he's referring to an inner faculty that humans have to listen to something inside. So he's using obviously metaphors, and he's saying if you can hear it, you are blessed. But obviously, this hearing that he talks about, it's more of a feeling, it's a sense that's inside, that you find inside. So basically what he's saying is, he's pointing us to the capacity that we have to lead an internal life. He uses those terms in another chapter. Internal life, the internal man is something that he says, obviously refers to man and woman, but what he means by that is the person who can look inside. So most of us, think about it, how many times during the day do you pay attention to what's going on inside? Think about it. If you're like most of us, we don't ever pay attention to anything inside. We're always so consumed by what's outside. And we're like this, oh yeah, what's that? Screens. And we're always rushing, we're always in a hurry. We're always thinking about tomorrow, yesterday. What do I need to do tomorrow? Okay, tomorrow. I have to plan for this, and I have to go shopping, and I don't have to forget to do the laundry. And when we live like that, with this internal chatter leading our lives, dominating our lives, if you haven't realized, you have an internal chatter. It's a voice that talks to you all the time and comments on things. Oh, he shouldn't have said that. Oh my God, I can't believe how this is happening to me. Or I knew this would happen to you. I told you you should have decided differently. That voice distracts us, and that voice runs our lives. And when that happens, we're lost. We're lost in future. We're lost in time. Past and future are all that's important. And when we live like that, another characteristic of that state of consciousness is we're also preoccupied with things outside of us. Everything outside catches our attention so completely that we forget that there's something also calling for our attention within. But obviously it's a whisper. That's what the words that he uses, a divine whisper. So that means it's very silent. And if you don't pay attention, if you're living like this and like that, running around, how can you ever pay attention to that silent whisper that's inside, that he's calling divine? He's calling it the voice of the Lord. It's just, you can call it whatever you want. Or you can decide to not call it anything. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you listen to it, that you hear it. Blessed are those ears which listen not after the voice which is sounding without, outside. So he's saying blessed is he who is not listening for the sound that's outside, the world, things that require our attention, job, family, work. All of that is outside the identity that I have of myself, and I need to protect that all the time. And I need to be like this, I need to be consistent with who I am, I need to have an opinion. All of those things are what he's calling without, outside. That's your superficial life. And of course it has its place. But if you're not careful, the superficial life, the outside life, consumes all of your attention. And when that happens, you're in trouble, because you can't listen to that divine whisper inside. Blessed indeed are those ears which listen not after the voice which is sounding without, but for the truth teaching inwardly. There's a teaching inside of you that you need to start paying attention to. He calls it truth. He calls it divine whisper. Doesn't matter what you call it. It's, of course, impossible to define. That's why he uses analogies. Blessed are the eyes which are shut to outward things, but intent on things eternal. So he's saying something eternal lies inside of you. And it's an interesting choice of words. Eternal, what does that mean? I don't think it means never-ending time. That's usually how we would define eternity. But I think it's almost the opposite, which is no time at all. Absence of time. So instead of everlasting, never-ending time, we're talking about no time at all. What happens when there's no time? You return to the present moment. That's what no time is. Time is past, future, your story, where you come from, what you've been through, what you want to do, where you want to go. That's all time. Timelessness is just one simple thing, this moment. That's why he calls it eternal, because it's the now, it's the eternal now. And that's something, if you want to find it, he's saying, you need to look inside. Blessed are they that enter far into inward things, and endeavor to prepare themselves more and more by daily exercises for the receiving of heavenly secrets. So he's saying the more you enter inside, the more you pay attention inside, the more blessed you are. And if you endeavor to prepare yourself more and more, that is to learn to live a life where your attention is focused inside, if you make that your goal, basically you are working, you're doing things right. You're working for something really profitable, truly profitable, if you're working on learning to live a life that's more internal. Blessed are they who are glad to have time to spare for God and shake off all worldly impediments. So we have God, again, if that's a word that benefits you, that you can use it. If not, if you find yourself saying, oh, what God, what's that? I don't like that concept. Don't use it. Change it. Change it for something like the universe or the source. Blessed are they who are glad to have time to spare for looking for the source and shake off all worldly impediments. If you do the effort to look for something internal, you are blessed. If you can make time, that's a great advice. I mean, this comes from the Middle Ages, but the advice that he is giving us is still very accurate. Perhaps even more than in the Middle Ages. Give yourself time to focus on inward, silent, quiet things. Instead of just being lost in just the chaos of a life that we all live. Because of technology, because of the distractions that we have. Our phone is ringing all the time. We're looking at our screens all day long. If in that we can spare a few minutes to contemplate on things internal, then we are profiting we're laboring for profit. So the message is simple. Look inside. Learn to live a life where you pay attention to what's happening inside of you. Your feelings, your emotions, how things affect you during the day. Meditation, I am a strong advocate for meditation. In fact, if you are interested in starting meditation, I have this meditation introduction course, whatever you want to call it, in my podcast. I'm going to leave the link to my podcast so that you can listen to it if you're interested in this kind of thing. And well, yeah, that was it for today. Leave a comment if you've liked this, and let me know what you think. Let me know if you get the book and read it or whatever, or if you have any comments. That's it for now. Take care. Until next time. Bye.